Hello there, and welcome to a new guide for Age of Wonders 4. This one is a quick guide regarding the Item Forge, which is a new feature which has been included with the Golem update and is available for everybody, allowing you to handcraft all the stuff that you want for your heroes. The first part of the video is an introduction about how the stuff works, and in the second part of the video I'm going to go a little bit about the theory crafting and what you can do with it, and why I personally think that is a massive change for the game to the better. Now, first off, you need a mage tower, level 1, the foundation level does the trick, and once you have that down, foundation, can pick up the item forge building. This allows you to convert items into binding essence, which is basically your currency to craft items, and you have henceforth access to this little button here. When you go in there, you will now notice that up here you have all your rare resources, which are now also used for the creation of magical items, therefore having received a massive upgrade. To create binding essence, you need to go into your arsenal of items, and there you can just select whatever you want and disenchant it to get some currency there. This is enabling you to destroy whatever items you don't need anymore, and therefore you finally have a usage for all those copies of these items. Once you have some binding essence available, you click in there, and now you get to select what kind of item you want to craft. Weapons always give you the ability to change their damage type. If you have the connected rare resources, you can pretty much craft whatever damage type you want. Weapons also have an ability slot, so they can go for you can go here for various different abilities. Some of them are locked behind resources. Mind you that some of them also require multiple applications of the same resource, so it now pays off to have many of these sometimes. And down here, we see all the passive infusions that we can pick. Each of them is racking up infusion points on your item, and an item can only have up to 5 infusion points, as you see there, and there the item tier does increase also. The item tier does increase the cost of the item, but in case of weapons it also increases the damage of these. So the items you can craft here are basically all the stuff you can loot. One-handed weapons, shields, two-handed weapons, you name it. These icons here are all just skins. There's only one thing where it is different that I found out, and that's with the heavy ranged weapons. The mage lock is, as a matter of fact, different weapon than the crossbows, also in the effect. If there are other outliners, let me know in the comment section, but when I went over the studies for this tutorial, all of these weapons, they're just different skins, allowing you to smack the same upgrades on there. It's worth mentioning that there is a pool for shields, a pool for two-handed weapons, and so on, in terms of passives that can be only applied to these items. It's also worth noting that two-handed magical weapons have different ability infusions than the melee weapons. That's very important to note. You'll find a lot of magical utility things here, which are really, really cool. You can also go for all the other slots, head, torso, all the stuff can be enchanted, and the only limitation here is that it always requires a turn to be forged, but that's that. I also want to point out that there are always effects available that can be crafted without any rare resources. Therefore, the item forge is massively useful right from the get-go, even if you don't have any rare resources available. There are really powerful effects available just from the start. So, that's pretty much all you need to know to get started with the item forge. The more magical materials you gather up, the more options you got, and this allows you to individualize the gear of your heroes according to your strategies. And that ends the first part of the video, heading on over to the second part. I want to talk here a little bit about what that changes to the game and how big of a change that actually is, by pointing out a few things and talk about the effects of that. For example, wands are activatable items, and we can apply a heal spell Just every hero now gets the ability to heal for 30 points regardless of your build. And you can also have a free tier 1 spider hatchling on every build without anything. You can put that onto every hero, effectively bringing up 3 throwaway units just for the meager price of 150 binding essence. There are so many wicked options in here that I really feel like this whole item forge will change up the way that we can play with heroes tremendously. As we can now craft the ideal damage type to our strategy, we can add in massive arrays of different effects, but most importantly, what I felt like the biggest change was you can destroy all the old stuff that you don't need and create weapons that will always be better than the stuff that you started with. Especially on the utility side, you have also a lot of options, but also on the defensive side. When you go for what you got here, even without too many magical resources, there is so much upgrading you can do for your hero just by using the basic materials that you got available. So for example, a suit of armor that just goes for the very basic things here would be much more effective than any horde of items like I have it here. Like, all these items linger around uselessly here because, I don't need all those mounts, for example. But you could go for one very generalistic piece of gear, which will, if you can get that multiple times on your hero, amplify his power massively. There's so much potential for micromanagement power gaming here that I think heroes will be, with the Golem update, much, much more powerful than they've ever been before, especially since we have a lot of baseline options here that are just so useful, allowing you to turn all that previously useless loot into something really, really powerful. So there's not that much more to say because the options always depend on your current build, but I also want to point out that this means henceforth are free cities much more valuable than they ever were before, because free cities usually also have their dibs on some rare resources, most of them at least do, and therefore getting these under control, vassalizing them, is increasing your pool of rare resources as well, upgrading the trading options with the free cities even more, because you can also trade these by spending resources or spending cultural traits. There's Silver Tongued, a trait that you can unlock. There's also spells in the tomes that you can use to make the cities friends. Whatever you might want to go for, these resources are now more powerful than they ever were before. And also, I want to stress out that the underground is now also upgraded massively, since like 50% of the magical resources are now only to be found underground. So if you don't want to settle underground, I strongly recommend you to send your scouts down there and find free cities to trade with, so you can get your hands on some of these subterranean materials as well. Apart from that, feel free to let me know in the comment section what I have missed out here. This tutorial was meant to be a baseline introduction of this wonderful new mechanic, and I hope it succeeded at getting you up to date with the new things that we can do now. Leave me a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and check out the description box. There's lots of links down there, and I'd be also very happy if you'd give a look to Patreon, PayPal, and Buy Me a Coffee. Top-notch methods of supporting the channel. I love what I do, and I also love being supported. Big, big thanks to everybody out there who already did. And a big thanks for you watching this video up until after the ad roll. Deeply appreciated. Hope you had a good time. See you soon.